The Whispering House. Hello friends, welcome to the Horror Ghost Stories. The story begins. It started with a dare, as these things often do. It was nearing midnight, and the autumn air was sharp with the scent of damp leaves. 4 friends Jake, Emma, Claire, and Liam stood before the ancient house on Blackwood Lane. The structure loomed in the moonlight, its rotting timbers and shattered windows giving it a skeletal appearance. "I'll go in," Jake announced, his bravado fueled by adrenaline and the need to impress Emma. "But you all have to follow." "No way," Claire said, shivering in her oversized hoodie. "They say the family that lived here, they disappeared. No one ever found them. The police said the house was wrong." "Ghost stories," Liam muttered. "See Mon, it's just wood and bricks." But the house seemed to hear them. A low creak emanated from within, like the groan of something ancient waking up. Emma, half intrigued and half scared, shrugged. "Let us do it. What's the worst that could happen?" Together, they pushed open the door, which screamed on rusted hinges. The air inside was heavy, reeking of mildew and something faintly metallic. The foyer was covered in dust, save for a set of footprints leading into the darkness. The group lit their phones for light, their beams cutting through the oppressive gloom. The wallpaper peeled in long strips, revealing dark stains beneath. The silence was alive with faint whispers, like a breeze that carried words instead of air. "What's that sound?" Claire asked, clutching Jake's arm. "Old house settling," Jake replied, though his voice wavered. They moved deeper, into what had once been a living room. A fireplace loomed, blackened and cold, but its mantel was spotless. A family photo stood there, a man, a woman, and 2 children, all smiling. Except their eyes had been scratched out. Emma frowned. "Who does that?" A scraping noise came from the ceiling above them. "Like claws." "Just animals in the attic," Liam said, trying to sound convincing. But the whispers grew louder, threading through their thoughts like a melody they couldn't unhear. "Why are there footprints?" Claire whispered, pointing at the tracks in the dust. They stopped abruptly at the base of the staircase, as if whoever made them had been lifted off the ground. No one answered. The group climbed the staircase, its wood bowing dangerously under their weight. At the top, the hallway stretched into the darkness, doors yawning open on either side. "I don't like this," Claire whispered. "No one does," Jake muttered, though he led the way. In one of the bedrooms, they found a child's doll sitting upright in a rocking chair. Its porcelain face was cracked, its eyes unnervingly lifelike. When Liam picked it up, the rocking chair continued to move. "That's not possible," he stammered, dropping the doll. It landed on its feet. The whispers grew louder. They weren't words, just a string of nonsensical syllables that seemed to crawl into their ears and lodge in their minds. Emma gasped. The door. The front door, it just slammed shut. The group rushed back, but the door wouldn't budge. Even Jake's shoulder slams couldn't move it. That's when the first scream came. It was Claire. She was pointing at the shadows pooling in the corner. They weren't attached to anything. They writhed and reached, their inky tendrils stretching toward the group. "Run!" Jake shouted. In their blind panic, they stumbled into a narrow hallway they hadn't noticed before. The air was colder here, and their breath fogged as they moved. The walls were covered in claw marks, as if something had been trying to escape. "This," "Wasn't he here before?" Emma said, her voice trembling. "We have to stick together," Jake said, gripping her hand tightly. They entered a small room at the end of the hallway. A single light bulb swung from the ceiling, casting erratic shadows. On the floor was a circle drawn in chalk, surrounded by symbols none of them recognized. Candles, long extinguished, sat at each point of the circle. "What is this?" Liam asked, his voice cracking. Before anyone could answer, the shadows from the hallway seeped into the room, pooling around their feet. The whispers became a deafening roar. The light bulb shattered, plunging them into darkness. "Jake!" Emma called, her voice echoing. But Jake was gone. Emma, Claire, and Liam were now plunged into complete isolation. The house seemed to split them apart deliberately, each swallowed by different corridors that hadn't been there moments before. Emma found herself in a parlor room. The mirrors on the walls were cracked, but they reflected scenes that didn't match reality. In one, she saw Jake running in terror down an endless hallway. In another, Claire sat motionless, blood running from her ears. The final reflection showed Emma herself, but something was wrong. Her reflection smirked as it mouthed, "Stay with us." Liam stumbled into a small chapel-like space. The walls bore carvings of eyes that seemed to follow him. A small altar stood at the center, surrounded by decayed offerings, dried flowers, melted candles, and bones. A book rested there, its cover inscribed with those same strange symbols. Against every instinct, Liam opened it. The pages weren't paper but something like stretched skin, and they pulsed faintly as though alive. As he read the first line aloud, the walls began to bleed, and the whispers turned into anguished screams. He slammed the book shut, but the damage was done. The door behind him vanished. Claire found herself in the basement, though she had no memory of descending stairs. The dripping sound was louder now, and she saw the source. The ceiling above was slick with black ichor, which fell into an ever-growing pool at her feet. In its surface, she could see shadows moving, but they weren't her own. They mimicked her movements at first, but then began moving independently, reaching toward her. "You shouldn't have come here," a voice rasped behind her. When she turned, no one was there, just the yawning mouth of a blackened crawl space. Something dragged itself out. The house's true nature began to manifest. The walls pulsed like a living organism, veins of darkness spreading through the wood. Each room now contained impossible elements: a staircase leading to the ceiling, a window showing an empty void, a clock ticking backward. The group was drawn together again in the attic, but none of them were unscathed. Emma's hands were covered in scratches, Liam's eyes were bloodshot and wide with terror, and Claire's voice was gone, reduced to a hoarse whisper. The family from the photo stood before them. Their forms shifted between human and grotesque, their eyes hollow voids. Nathaniel Blackwood stepped forward, his voice both commanding and desperate. "Free us," he demanded. "Complete the circle." The chalk circle from before appeared on the floor, glowing faintly. Liam pulled the book from his jacket, realizing the symbols matched. But the shadows hissed around them, whispering warnings. "Don't do it," they hissed. "Join us instead." The group had to decide: trust Nathaniel and risk completing the ritual, or defy him and face the house's wrath. No matter their choice, the house claimed them. If they completed the ritual, the family was freed, but the group became the new anchors, their souls tethered to the house for eternity. If they refused, the house consumed them slowly, turning their forms into twisted shadows that joined the others, whispering warnings to the next visitors. By dawn, the house was silent again. The only sign of the friends was the family photo on the mantle. It had been updated. Now, Jake, Emma, Claire, and Liam smiled alongside the other eyes scratched out. And the house waited, patient as ever, for its next visitors.